Okay, can everybody see that? And Chrissy, is it recording again?
It is recording, but your screen is no longer shared. So if you could share that again, please.
Okay.
And thank you everyone for waiting while we figure out Zoom.
Okay. So the ARPA CLFR regulations require applicants to abide by some specific funding regulations. And some of the following are just some, but not all of the federal requirements that may apply to licensed child care capital facilities projects. So the Real Property Acquisition, Relocation, and Displacement Policies Act applies if you have anybody living in the units, or if you require any relocations. For facilities, there's not typically people that are living somewhere or that will need to be actually relocated. It can be a little tricky. It requires a plan. And so any displacement that results from the acquisition, demolition, or the rehabilitation of the projects, or any real property acquisition for the federally funded assistant projects, including acquisition of temporary and permanent easements. So anything that's going to require relocating people who actually live in the units will need to have a relocation plan. And on this, on page 10 of the NOFA is this in blue that's on the screen. Please contact Deborah May at either that phone number or that email address if you have any questions about relocation. Deborah will be out of the office towards the end of the month. So if you're thinking that you may have a relocation situation, please contact us right away. And then ARPA has waived the federal prevailing wage rates. However, you will need to pay, or you may be required to pay the state prevailing wage rates. So you'll want to plan on that when you are working through your budgets. And procurement. So the use of federal funds for any activity requires compliance with the applicable procurement requirements and the Office of Manage and Budget Uniform Guidance and the 2 CFR 200.317 through 2 CFR 200.36. We get a lot of questions on procurement. So if there is an interest and we get enough interest in a request for a training, we will do training on that. Otherwise, we will work individually with anyone who is awarded through the procurement and the bid process. We want everybody to be really successful for that. And what ends up happening is if that goes wrong, you have to start all over and it can really delay your project. The use of minority and women business enterprise participation is encouraged, and this is something that we do usually put in part of our contracts. And equal opportunities, organizations must comply with federal, state, and local laws that prohibit discrimination on the grounds of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, genetic information, sexual orientation, and parental status. Discrimination is prohibited in the provision of a service or within a facility funded with these federal funds, and in all aspects of administering an ARPA CLFR proposal, including the contracting, procurement, and employment. And of course, the project needs to comply with the Americans with Disability Act. And then this is the environmental review information, which is quite a bit of the application process after the evaluation criteria. And it also has all the information on where you can find the required documents. If you end up in a bind when you're trying to find those documents, or one of the documents doesn't make sense, my contact information is on here to call in regards to that. And we are happy to walk you through that process as you're obtaining those documents. There may be additional federal requirements as we work through the individual projects that receive awards. But at this time, those are the main ones that you'll need to be concerned with. And I'm trying, so on page 27 is where the environmental review information starts. And then it has my contact on there also. And then each of these ask some information. If you're unable to pull up some county records that can provide this information, please give us a call. Usually you're able to access the site directly, but every once in a while there's something that's locked or blocked, or it's just not there. And then we have to go through and take a look at it. There's a lot of information on this, so please read through it. It's pretty, we've got all of the links. So all you really need to do is click on the link. And it's pretty self-explanatory. But again, I say that knowing that we work with it all the time and not everybody does. So if you do find yourself in a bind, feel free to call me or email me. Okay, and then please make sure that you do have all this information attached when you do submit your application. Okay, I think that's it for the federal requirements, Chrissy.
Excellent, thank you. All right, let's continue with the Q&A portion. Pajuf, it looks like you've got a question.
Maybe Tom, and we'll come back.
Excellent.
Hello. My question is regarding, I guess there's two parts. The first one regarding the zoning verification. Is that something we have to do through Snohomish, or can your local, can you contract with somebody that does that sort of thing as a part of our process, or is that like a specific verification process we have to go through with the county?
Robbie, or Chrissy, can you respond?
Chrissy, did you want me to respond?
Yeah, Robbie, why not?
Okay, so that is really actually a very simple process. And you could hire somebody who would charge you quite a bit of money to do that. But if you can't find the zoning on the county website, then you can always call down to the tax records and they'll actually help you through that process, or you can call us and we can help you through that process.
But it's not like a formal process where someone has to stamp on it and say you're approved. Okay.
Well, no, what happens is you pull up the document, you print it out, you attach it to the application, and then when you send it in, we review it. And if it's wrong, then we correct it. And if it's right, then we sign off on it.
Okay.
So I know it sounds like we're asking for a whole lot of documents here, because we are. But I think once you start, and one of the tips Chrissy mentioned, just to kind of go through it really methodically, and it looks really scary and it can be a little daunting and intimidating. But once you start working through one piece of it, and then you hit that link, and then it's like, oh, click here, enter your address. And a lot of those links, you enter the address and it brings up exactly what we're asking for. And then if you do get stuck if you do get stuck trying to pull some of that information up, you are welcome to call us.
Awesome. Thank you. And
Part
two is a separate issue. I guess it's providing me some confusion. This concept of shovel ready, and then how soft costs apply into that. I guess I'm just wondering, it seems like there's a chicken and the egg sort of thing. You're supposed to be ready, but then you can use money to do the things that get you ready. So, is that, people that are more ready and have a packet set in hand get a better rating, and, or if you get funded, can you use the money to pay for soft costs that are remaining to get you to, literally breaking ground?
Yes, so what we are looking for are projects that are going to be able to fully expend their full award by the end of the deadline, and then also result in an additional increase in the number of slots. So if, for example, you are in a space where you are scoping a project, we can funds through this NOFA would be, that type of work would be eligible under this NOFA. However, you will need a kind of concrete plan for how over time that will ultimately result in increased number of slots.
Okay, wonderful.
Does that?
Yeah, kind of, because I thought I saw something the other day that it seemed to indicate that the funding is going to come out, but then really, breaking ground was like September 2024. You had to like really be into it. Is that the gist of it? You get a little, it seems like there's a little bit of time in there. And, for somebody who's from a small organization, I hate to put $30,000-$40,000 into a project, knowing that it's just going to sit there for a couple of years while I chase funding for it. So, it's trying to make the best use of plans.
With this, we are really looking for kind of those complete projects, right? So we are either all or a portion of or whatever segment of the funding, but that kind of we are reasonably guaranteed that at the end of this project, it will be fully completed and the number of slots will expand.
Okay, thank you.
Paju, just checking back to see if you're on.
Yes, I am on. Good afternoon. So this is Paju from the Washington West African Center. I have both a comment and a question. And my comment is more on the lines of what this project is doing. Organizations like mine that are relatively young with little experience, but a high demand and need from our communities, I don't see us being able to benefit much from this. I'm saying this because I was involved with the feedback session that was conducted by the county from the get-go, where we have to give our inputs, and we were very excited. And as a result, we even opted in for participating in such things. My organization has an expanded learning program. We can only take 20 kids, but we have a waiting list of over 30 kids, and the need is growing. However, there is no funding. We don't have the space and the capacity to do it. This, in my view, would have been a perfect thing to apply for. However, there is no funding, there is no experience, there is no capacity to even get to that groundbreaking level, which is being asked for from everybody to do. So from the feedback session we have with you all, where we gave all of this great feedback on how grassroots organizations and underrepresented communities, BIPOC communities like myself could benefit from this, I really don't see it. When I raised my hands, I saw or heard some of the people ask some of the questions that I wanted to ask, but it's definitely, I'm just on top of my head thinking, now how does my community and other communities like mine benefit from this? If we don't have the capacity, we don't have the funding, we don't have the technical knowledge or any of the other things that are required to get this thing done. I don't know if that makes sense. Am I just talking too much? But from what we said and what got us to be very excited from this, we thought this project would have been a lot more easier on organizations like us and would be directed to communities like ours to be able to apply for. That's my thought for now.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that question. And I do recognize that kind of this funding opportunity, as you correctly identified, is really focused and targeted on those larger organizations that are well established and can manage grants of this size. This is not the only ARPA funding that is going to support and expand and enhance childcare opportunities and availability in Snohomish County. This is just our first set. We do plan on releasing additional funding that is targeted on expansion in smaller organizations or organizations who maybe need more capacity building and less kind of large capital support. So I do absolutely want to be kind of clear and transparent that this funding is not the only opportunity for organizations to access financial support through the childcare ARPA funds. So thank you so much for participating in kind of our previous outreach and engagement. We really are truly trying to develop a range of funding opportunities that meet and are responsive to the different levels and sizes of organizations in our community, so that kind of we are meeting the challenges related to childcare availability and accessibility at kind of all ends of, or kind of in all spaces in the community.
And this
I
one
wanted
is,
to,
oh,
I just wanted to say that we need capital projects too. I mean, without us being given the opportunity, I doubt when we will ever have that opportunity to have that capacity, that capital, project. And our input was short in this.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
will say to you that your input did matter. And so we do think that there will, on a smaller scale, be funding for some capital projects. And we're hoping ARPA funding isn't the end of this. I think we're seeing a real commitment to invest over a long time, many years in capital projects. This one came out the door first because we knew the amount of time it was going to take to process this RFP and get it off the ground. We needed the most time possible. So the other ones are coming out shortly. I'm going to go to a couple of the questions in the chat, and then we'll come back to the hands that are raised. So Ashley, regarding the sealed bid process, if we are beginning construction based on our pre-planning, do we need to go back and do a sealed bid process and or risk losing out on funding due to us having gone ahead with our planned construction?
Robbie, can you answer that one, please?
I'm sorry to start my sentence with an this one is really tricky because it really depends on the type of funding you have in the project. If you are already in project and you have already your general contractor and you've already got your bids out there, then you're not really a recipient of any of this federal funding yet. So what happens is once we determine award or whatever the situation would be, we would need to take a look at anything going forward, and potentially it depends on really what portion of the project this would be funding as well. So if this would be funding, maybe acquisition, that what might be a different story. But if you are mid-project and you've already gone out to bid and you're not paying prevailing wage, or you didn't do a sealed bid contract, we're going to probably have to take a look at that again. It's not really a yes or no answer. It's really tricky because we may only be able to fund whatever portion we fund of the project. You would have to follow all of those procedures. So let's say you've got $1 million project and you get an award for $400,000 from the county. You would really have to make sure that the only reimbursement that you would get from us would be everything that met that criteria. Does that make sense?
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's really tricky, especially when you already have projects in play.
Okay, next question I think we may have answered, but shovel ready, meaning you have an accepted offer on a facility or land.
And again, just to reiterate, shovel ready means that we are able to move forward with the project relatively quickly, and have a reasonable guarantee that this will result in that the project is fully funded and will ultimately result in an increased number of slots in the county.
Okay. Is the evaluation criteria set and is it available?
Yes, the evaluation criteria is in the application. We've provided kind of what an ideal answer would look like, and what an example of like a 0 to 5, what each of those type of information I would include, and how we were planning to award points. So that is all in the application.
On the application for total project cost, would we include the cost of our larger project, which will serve multiple purposes, or just the total cost of the childcare space?
Chrissy, you want me to answer? Total project cost is the entire cost of the project.
Okay, does DCYF staff or licensing staff, et cetera, have any say on who is awarded these grants?
No determination will be made by the Office of Recovery and Resilience Committee with the final award determination made by Snohomish County Council. We may include a DCYF staff member or licensing supervisor in the ORRC. That makeup has not been finalized yet. But we're not kind of passing these off to DCYF in any formal way other than potentially having a member on our committee.
And then Fred, you just took your hand down. I assume this is your question on page 30. Wetlands protection, are you expecting a formal wetlands survey?
So Fred, hello there.
Hello, Robbie.
So Fred is very, very familiar. He's one of our largest, well, he is the largest developer for Snohomish County. So he's very familiar with this process. And we would be looking at the same process, especially for a larger project. We would be required, if necessary, to go out for consult with Fish and Wildlife. So we're trying to get through these NEPA faster than normal, but yeah, we would probably, for the scope, if this is the scope of the project that you're potentially planning, then yeah, we probably would for that particular project.
Very good, thanks.
You're welcome.
Samantha, thank you for your patience, Samantha.
Thank you. My question is on the purchasing side of things. So if we have a building that we are under lease with, and we are scheduled with the building owner in talks with possibly purchasing it in 2025, which is in line with what the grant is offering, does the total price plus closing costs need to be under that 2 million, or if the owner wants to sell for 2 million, and then am I allowed to then cover the other closing costs, or does it need to be all encompassed?
The maximum amount that we will be awarding for any single project is $2 million. So if you're using other fund sources for projects that are larger than $2 million, that's fine, but they just need to be fully accounted for.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I don't think I see any more questions in the chat that we haven't answered. Oh, got another one. Is COVID impacted area fund also available for home-based childcare? We are based in Bothell, which is a high COVID impact. I believe this is partially answered by future grant for smaller facilities, but making sure we proceed with applying for, waiting for a future grant or smaller.
So for those future opportunities, we have not fully set our funding criteria, although I imagine it will be very similar, where we are awarding additional points and preferencing projects that are meeting those most impacted by COVID-19 requirements. So again, focused on areas that are in QCTs, childcare, deserts, or are serving families that are below 65% of the area median income.
Chrissy, if there's no other questions, I'd like to just make a comment very quickly for everybody that's on the call. We know that these applications request a lot of information, and we know that it can be daunting because it's federal funds and you're working with obviously a jurisdiction. However, please know as you're working through this, we have staff that has years and years and years of experience, and we do a lot of training on procurement and the bid process, on environmental reviews, on relocation, and we literally will walk you through every step of the way. And so I want everybody to just know, if it looks overwhelming, And it feels like maybe you're looking at something and you think maybe you don't have the capacity to do it, or you think it's going to take a really long time, or again, it just looks overwhelming. Please reach out, because we are always willing to help people work through this. We cannot answer, we can't tell you how to fill out the application, but we can help you with technical questions. And we don't want you to miss out on this funding opportunity, because you might think that it might be a little overwhelming. And I just want to add one more thing, and the developers that we work with that are on this call know these environmental reviews. Somebody had asked about going out and getting another environmental review. These environmental reviews can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, $60,000, depending on the scope of the work. The county does them for free, because it's our funding source. We're the required entity to do them. So we do them for free. And if you do go out and spend the funds to get an environmental review, federal NEPA does not allow us to accept that as the one that's complete. What we do is accept it, and then we use that to complete the NEPA that we review. So please keep that in mind, especially if you're looking at a really tight budget, that you can go out and you can do that, and we're happy to accept it and take a look at it. But again, it's like with everything, if it's a county source of funding that we're administering, we are happy to help you walk through this process. And please don't let the application or all the required materials cause you to maybe step away from it, because this really is a good funding opportunity.
Tori and then Samantha.
Hi, my name's Tori. I am a family home child care provider. However, I am looking to expand and also add a daycare center to my portfolio, so I can run both perhaps. I have no idea where to start. Is there anybody that can help me scale up and meet the requirements that you guys are asking for in this application?
So Tori and Chrissy and Robbie, you can jump in, but I think that this particular RFA or this NOAA is really for those folks who have everything in place and are ready to launch their project and have it finished. And future ARPA projects, the intention is to include some of that support and information that you're just identifying as needed to move yourself to this place where you could be competitive for county or state or other grant facility projects.
I don't want to count myself out of this one just because I don't know what I'm doing. If you guys really want those childcare spots like you say you want, you would help us smaller guys get to that position as well.
This is what's really complicated with this, because these are federal funds and this is an open competitive process. We aren't really, these have to be fair competitive processes. And so we can't help applicants put together a plan. That's not really within the scope of what we're able to do. What I would recommend is if you're thinking of expanding and you really want some help, I would contact the Washington or either UW or Wazoo, their architectural and engineering departments, because they have staff and students that will help you put together those types of plans, and they do that for free. So that's always, if you're like, you're just getting into the process of thinking about doing this, that is really a resource that goes unused a lot. And they're constantly calling us and saying, hey, if you know anybody who's thinking, who might need some architect or engineering, please tell them to call the School of Architect or Engineering. And they will actually help you put that together. But as for county staff, we do want people to be able to use these funds. However, because it is a competitive process, we aren't able to provide that type of assistance.
Thanks.
Samantha, I'm not sure if you have a new question or if your hand was still up. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
No, it is a new question. Kind of going on again of a purchasing project is that if a if the building is getting renovated for, it's the building we're looking at is was a former school, a private school, and it just needs a few tweaks to get ready for childcare, so it could hold possibly 160 more slots of new childcare. My question is, can the renovation be, the owner start the renovation now to get it ready so it is ready in 2024 for me to purchase it? Or does it need to be as is right now? We can't touch it. Once we put the application in, like if we put the application in next month and say, okay, here's this building, we want to use it, but oh, it still needs some sinks in it. Can the owner still put those sinks in?
Yes, you can continue any renovation or work on the building as is. And any portion that you would be applying for are kind of those pieces where we need to meet all of the other federal requirements. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, as long as like she can still, we can still work on it. That was the biggest thing. So that way it is childcare ready by the time of purchase. That I just want to make sure that I was able to align everything and not say, oh, we have to stop because we have to wait till so-and-so comes out first to look at it or do this or that because she wants to get it done prior to everyone seeing it.
Yes.
So, okay, that answered my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then I see a couple of requests in the chat to share that contact information for those folks at UW and Wazoo. So I will work with Robbie to get that information and send that around to folks on this call.
Fred, if you can hold for 1 second, I just want to respond to a couple questions. Can we send you contact information who can help with future contracts? And I will say to you that we are working on trying to identify that. As we've gotten questions, I have reached out to a variety of folks, including childcare aware, and clearly based on our conversations with all of you and our attempts to find some very direct support like you're asking for, it is clearly a significant gap in this community. So just know that as we move forward through the next 2 years with ARPA funding, we're aware of this and we're trying to make this a priority. Fred?
Thanks, Karen. We have a project that potentially or would encompass not only childcare but also behavioral health and also job training. Potentially, there would be 3 RFPs that might be a fit for this project. You talked a little bit about how that you can do that in this RFP. Do you know when the economic empowerment RFP will be out, and will the any additional kind of advice on having how do you divide a space up to be separate and eligible for the different funding sources?
So in terms of future funding opportunities in different policy spaces, recognizing that these aren't really discrete, that everything is intertwined, and childcare and workforce and mental health are all kind of one and the same. We are planning to release additional funding opportunities, ideally in Q1 of 2023. Again, recognizing the very short timeline. So we will make sure that people on this call who are interested in receiving those notices are part of our any mailing list or we will include you in any future notifications. In terms of how you would split that up, as I mentioned earlier, you would need to determine what pieces and costs are specifically related to childcare, as that is the only kind of eligible and allowable use for this particular RFP. So somehow in this larger project, you would just need to carve out and specify this is going to enhance and expand our childcare capacity.
Well, maybe just a little further, could costs be allocated? A percentage of cost for this, a percentage of cost for that, or does it have to be a distinct physical space that each of those funding sources are funding?
Fred, are you asking if you can allocate like engineering and architecture costs before the space is designated? Or
Yeah.
what type
Yes.
of costs, for example?
Yeah, there's two kind of aspects of it. One is that you got a building that shares a roof and shares a foundation and exterior walls and all that. So you got an allocation of space there. The other is that a space, may serve more than one function. It may do job training as well as childcare.
Right, so that's something that we work with other federal funds as well, and then and Chrissy, please jump in if there's something different about this. We would allocate the funds specific to the space, so you would designate, say it's a 20,000 square foot room, and 30% of it is used for behavioral health and 70% is used for childcare facilities. Then you would have to kind of prorate that and then adjust the funding that way. At least that's the majority of any capital project funding. But again, Chrissy, do you have other thoughts on that, or does that kind of align with what you're thinking as well?
That aligns with my understanding as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
I will open it up to any additional questions. And if not, as I said, we will be posting both the recording, the PowerPoint presentation, and a typed up Q&A on our website within 5 business days. Thank you all so much for your time, your great questions, and your commitment to this work. I think it's vital to the county and building our community, and we appreciate all of you so much.
Thank you, Chrissy.
All right, thank you everyone, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.